Hello there, you're now with me, Handy Gui, for TVS News at 5. Let's begin with our top story. The conviction of Datin Sri Rosmah Mansoor, who was found guilty on 3 counts of corruption involving a solar energy project for rural schools in Sarawak, has shown that the rule of law is widely respected in Malaysia. This was expressed by the Minister of Tourism, Creative Industry and Performing Arts, Dr. Sri Abdul Karim Brahman Hamzah.
Kita melihatnya sebagai satu keputusan mahkamah. Ini menunjukkan bahawa in Malaysia the rule of law is there in practice. Tidak memilih sesiapa seseorang itu, walaupun beliau adalah seorang Perdana Menteri ataupun bekas Perdana Menteri ataupun bekas First Lady. It does not mean that you are immune from the law, from the long arm of the law. If it is an offence, and the court found out that you are guilty, you will be guilty. Which is something which we all have to respect.
Abdul Karim added that it should be taken as a lesson and reminded civil servants to execute their duties responsibly. Commenting on the project, the minister said he is unsure of the current progress.
Tetapi sekiranya ia belum tamat lagi, harapan kita adalah untuk projek itu dijalankan, karena niat asal projek itu adalah untuk membekal lampu-lampu elektrik kepada sekolah-sekolah di kawasan pedalaman. It will not be good to see the project not being completed.
He was speaking on Thursday, September 1st, while attending the 19th Kuching Intercultural Mooncake Festival. On a separate note, Abdul Karim expressed his appreciation and joy in seeing people of different races gathering and celebrating the event.
Kalau kita lihat Mooncake Festival ataupun Intercultural Mooncake Festival yang telah diadakan ini, ia adalah satu yang amat menarik sekali, karena walaupun Mooncake Festival ini adalah tamasya ataupun acara yang bersangkut paut dengan budaya Cina, tapi ia disambut bersama-sama dengan masyarakat-masyarakat yang lain yang ada di negeri Sarawak.
Meanwhile, Abdul Karim said, despite Rosmah Mansoor's conviction for corruption, the 1.25 billion ringgit solar energy project for rural schools in the state should be continued. He added that he was unsure if the project had been implemented, but maintained it would greatly benefit the rural community. As such, he hopes that the project will carry on, as the original intention of the solar hybrid project was to supply electricity to schools in rural areas. Yesterday, the Kuala Lumpur High Court sentenced Rosmah, the wife of former Prime Minister Najib Razak, to 10 years in jail and a 970 million ringgit fine after finding her guilty of corruption in connection with the project. Judge Zaini Maslan granted her request to suspend the jail sentence and fine pending her appeal. Rosmah had been charged with soliciting 187.5 million ringgit from former Jepak Holdings Sundrian Berhad Managing Director Saidi Abang Samsudin through her former aide Rizal Mansoor as an inducement to help the company secure the 1.25 billion ringgit Sarawak Rural School Solar Energy Project. In addition to that, she was also charged with receiving a bribe amounting to 5 million ringgit from Saidi through Rizal at Seri Perdana in Putrajaya on December 20, 2016, and receiving another 1.5 million ringgit from Saidi at Jalan Langgat Duta on September 7, 2017. Welcome back. Now, following this week's topic on the essence of labor force, the aging population can bring about a shift in the working age ratio. Now, new generations have little chance to advance in their career since the older generations have the skill and knowledge to stay at the helm. But does this make our human resources vulnerable in any way? Earlier today, we were joined by Dr. Lucy Sebli, a senior professor at the University Malaysia Sarawak, or UNIMAS, advocating us on the matter.
I think here, age dependency ratios of the population refers to those who are generally not in labor force, i.e. the dependents, in this case the older populations. So the dependents is not only included people aged 65 and above, but also the populations under 15 years old. Now, the working populations, accordingly consists of population between 15 to 64 years. I think in the case of Malaysia will be between 15 to 64 years. Now, these ratios will continue to put pressure on the productive populations produced by the dependent parts of the populations. Now, this implies that the burden to support the old age population is increasing. Now, the trend in the numbers of the working age to non-working age or dependent populations in the world from 1950 till 2050 changes over time and also between regions. Now, I think that's to measure the dependency ratio, the total number of children below 15 years old plus the total number of population 65 years old and older is divided by the total number of those in the working group population 15 to 64. And I think in Malaysia, it's still relatively okay.
So, Dr. Lucy, in your opinion, how would such a phenomenon impact the nation's economy both in short and long term? And as the population ages, will there be significant challenges in terms of priorities, in particular a greater demand for health and social services? Are we prepared for this, and will there be a need to acquire the skills of this society?
And the second one is the impact is greater demands on health and also other social services, which is again another challenge of populations aging. Now, whilst increasing elderly populations is an indication of an improvement in the overall quality of life, living longer. However, but this again need not necessarily mean living healthier. This is because the prevalence of non-communicable diseases and also disability increase as populations ages, putting a strain on the countries to provide adequate health care to support elderly, such as their retirement homes, care, medications, and many more. Now, the other long-term impact will be on the country's sustained economic growth. The age structures of a country population should affect the country's and will affect the country's economic performance. Generally, countries with a youthful populations will be more productive than a country with an older one, as it will have a larger labor force relative to population size. With more workers, a country could produce more goods and services. Thus, youthful countries tend to grow faster economically than older countries. Now, a general loss of economic dynamism also explains, why many advanced countries, with older populations have become more open to immigrations in recent years. Now, increased spending obligations created by the aging populations will shift resources away from investments and also productions, thus impacting on the future growth in the economy in the longer term. And a review of the current situations indicates inadequate social provisioning for older Malaysians. Concerted efforts must therefore made to ensure that the older adults receive sound health care and to be and be protected by social security schemes that prevent them from falling into poverty. There is a need for well-developed infrastructures that allows them to continue to work in a less stressful environment with a very flexible employment structures. older adults have skills and also expertise required by a rapidly industrializing society.
And last but not least, Doctor, what would you recommend for the nation, especially Sarawak, to address such situations? In other words, ways to utilize these generation skills and knowledge without risking the younger generation's opportunities. What I can see here is that an integration is needed in order to minimize the gap between the two generations. Can you expand on the matter?
Have to bear in mind that older generations have more skills and also expertise which is required by a rapidly industrializing societies, and these resources need to be employed productively. Just because they are old doesn't mean they are no longer useful. All right, but you have to bear in mind that they are they have skills and experience. All right, and this is we should take advantage of that. I think intergenerational programs also, should be, I think, considered in order to foster interactions which facilitate the sharing of skills and also knowledge or also experience between the old and also the young generations to ensure integrations between the different generations. And I think these integrations could contribute towards the creations of not only creations to a unified Malaysian identity that transcends ethnic differences and also age as well.
Thank you, Dr. Lucy. Now see the world closer with TVS as we bring you the latest news update both locally and internationally just a click away by visiting our official website at tvstv.my or follow us on our social media platforms. That's all the time we have for TVS News at 5. I'm Handy Gui. Thank you for watching.